it's a little a moment to bring up some news that hit me on a personal level. A good friend of mine, YouTuber, Golden Blue Dude. He's been on the show, helped me push through when I was first starting back in the day. Uh, Sadly, he passed away Monday night. So I just wanted to come on and wish him and his family prayers, thoughts, condolences throughout that time. Uh, Sorry to hear this for the family. Chris, man, Country Roads took you home, and I hope this show um, is a good tribute for you, bud. Welcome to the DGD Podcast, guys. As always, Robert Reynolds, Kobe Pierce. Got a lot to talk about. A specific name in the 2024 cycle. Uh, we got some questions. Could Georgia land the top overall prospect, Dylan Raiola? We're going to talk about that. But first off, Kobe, welcome back, sir. It's been a minute.
What up, brother? It doesn't seem like it's been that long, though. It's Juan that we're missing.
Juan's on the back of a milk carton somewhere. I swear to God he is. But no, it just feels like forever, I guess, maybe. Now, listen, so obviously not robbing the gang, but the Dos Amigos, right? Um, Adonis is in the chat. Tanil is in the chat. RIP Golden Blue Dude, good YouTuber / friend of mine, passed away Monday night. So prayers to him and his family. But I want to go ahead and get started. Also, before we do get started, stay tuned, folks. There is an announcement coming up at the end of this at the end of this show today. Obviously, G Day is right around the corner, and it's pertaining to it. So you don't want to miss this. I promise you. So stick around. But first things first, let's talk Dylan Raiola. First off, 2024 number one overall prospect quarterback, right? If you're not familiar with this name, there is a nice little history here with Georgia. So Dylan Raiola is the son of Dominic Raiola, and Dominic Raiola was a center for the Detroit Lions back in the day, who also played with Matthew Stafford, hence the Georgia connections. Also, within this recruitment, you're looking at a Georgia, USC, Nebraska looks to be race there. Kobe, let's start with the question and then we'll break it down. Will Georgia land Dylan Raiola?
I think, we've talked about it before. I think right now, yes, I think you have a good chance of landing Dylan Raiola. I think that you're in as good of a position with Matthew Stafford. You're in a good position, like with his relationship with Mike Bobo. And then you're also in a good thing that, most top quarterbacks these days, like he's probably less than, 6 to 8 weeks from making that decision. So this isn't going to be one of those, like, it's going to take till December before you know. Like, you're going to know sometime in June. So
I think Georgia will land him. And obviously, we're about to explain why. And we'll talk some aftermath about this, too. I think Georgia lands him because of the situation that Georgia's in currently as a program, right? You look at what each of these schools bring to the table. If you look at the three that we're talking about, right? Georgia, Southern Cal, and Nebraska, right? Nebraska, family ties. Dominic played there. Got a family member on the coaching staff. So it's easy to see the connections there and why Lincoln, Nebraska could be a destination spot for Dylan Raiola. But in my opinion, though, I do think it's a Georgia USC leading the way. And USC kind of speaks for itself with Lincoln Riley there. Quarterbacks go there. Caleb Williams, right, Heisman winner, and a very good chance at maybe even doing it again. So there's a possibility that you could see a back-to-back Heisman winner, which would be absolutely nuts. But that's just a testament to what Lincoln Riley is doing with quarterbacks. However, can they win national championships? Which Georgia has kind of shown itself as being that standard right now, coming in, winning, and winning a lot, winning championships, things like that. Also, the Matt Stafford tie, I think, is very important here. If you're a Georgia fan following this recruitment, listen, folks, I'm just going to let you know right now. I'm not bashing any specific site, but crystal balls don't mean shit in this recruitment. So do not follow the crystal balls on this recruitment. It's for entertainment only. All right. It is. Do not put 100% faith at all in those. I think just alone, Steve Wilfong has changed his like 4 or 5 times at least. So keep that in mind. Now it's fun to keep up with, but do not trust him 100%. That's all I'm going to say. But the question is now, what does it look like if Georgia were to land Dylan Raiola? What do you think that does for the 24 cycle, Kobe?
I mean, obviously, it's like we've talked about a little bit here and there. You're gonna get that after shock in recruitment. You're gonna get some guys that say it's kind of like the Arch Manning effect was last year for Texas. Arch Manning commits to Texas, they get a 5-star wide receiver and a 5-star running back within 2 weeks. Talent wants to play with talent. Talent wants to win with talent. You have people that are probably out there already at receiver that have played in these 7-on-7s. They've played in the Elite 11. They've done these things with Dylan Raiola, and they go, when he goes, where he goes, I will follow because I want to be there. He's the kind of quarterback that can win you, not just maybe one national championship, but multiple. And at some point, if you're a receiver, if you're the top dog, you go, I want to catch passes from him and I want to win these games with him. I don't want to find myself on the other end of him at LSU or at Ohio State or at Clemson when he's at Georgia and they're winning. And I'm sitting here and I may be catching a lot of balls, but I could be catching a lot of balls at Georgia. I could be the guy. I could be the best receiver since A.J. Green at the University of Georgia. So I think those are all things that recruits weigh. And, I think NIL kind of skews that a little bit. I think now there's a little bit of the money aspect in it. But I still think when it comes down to it, even in the NFL, guys will tell you, you want to be winning. Like, getting paid is great, but getting your ass whooped every week, it just kind of takes a little bit of that fun money away.
I think you're right there, right? I think I see the logic between both schools, right? The accolades for quarterbacks, especially from a quarterback perspective on his level, right? I think that there's something definitely worth monitoring. But if he comes to Georgia like I expect him, I think he will. There could be a historic trend beginning for Georgia. And the reason why I say historic is because you could arguably see an elite receiver since, like you said, A.J. Green was the last one. But what if, and I'm not saying it will happen, but if he were to commit, could you see a guy like, let's say, Jeremiah Smith, decommit from Ohio State, come to Georgia? I'm not saying it will, so don't get it twisted, folks. But if that were to happen, I think Jeremiah Smith is bona fide. Kid is a dude. And if you were able to get him to come to Georgia and commit to Georgia, you're looking at a state of the receiving corps in which we haven't seen in a very long time. Ironically, last since Mike Bobo was offensive coordinator. I'm just gonna leave that there. Kobe, have you looked at his tape or anything like that? Dylan's tape or anything?
Well, what I've been looking at, and that's what Pat's giving me a hard time staring at my other monitor. Right now, he's a .9995 recruit. It would make him a top 20 recruit all time. It would put him only behind this is on 247, by the way. It would put him only behind Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, and Vince Young, and maybe Arch Manning as well. But all time, to make him one of the top 5 quarterback recruits coming out of high school, ranking wise, ever. And at one point before this last composite ranking came out, he was a perfect 1.000, which only Vince Young has ever been.
I mean, Vince Young was arguably one of the best quarterbacks we've ever seen. So, makes sense. But I do think, looking at some of his tape, right? Like, I think when it comes to Dylan Raiola, some of the passes that he makes it look easy, right? And it's to the level where, like, it makes you wonder if SEC ball will be easy to him, right? From an adjustment standpoint. But if you're telling me that Dylan Raiola could come to Georgia, have the pipeline under Matt Stafford and that kind of lineage and tutelage, right, to grow and develop, because Mike Bobo was here for Matt Stafford, I think that lines up well for his development. Would it not?
I mean, I think you saw under Bobo some really good quarterbacks. I mean, everybody remembers that we didn't have a couple of good years. I mean, he got Matthew Stafford. That year we won the Sugar Bowl with Matthew Stafford. If it's a playoff year, like if we're in the playoff system back then, I don't think anybody's beaten Georgia that year. I mean, they were just playing the last half of the season on fire. And so, I think that's the hard thing. When you just talk about like Mike Bobo's legacy, Mark Richt's legacy, like, if there had always been a 4-team playoff, there would have been some teams, 2002, 2005, this Mark Richt. I don't think Bobo was here yet in 2002. But like the 12 team, the 08 team, like those guys, I mean, those were some dang good offenses. I mean, you come up just short in 12. I don't think people always remember that, And so I think that as far as Mike Bobo, he's going to teach him how to run a true pro-style offense. And I think that's a very important thing when you look at what, like, USC may be offering Raiola. Like, no doubt in my mind, and this is a hard chip to swallow. You go to USC, there's a good chance you're going to win the Heisman at quarterback. There's a good chance you could be the number 1 overall quarterback drafted in your class as well. But when we look at those guys that have been under Lincoln Riley and how they're doing in the NFL, besides Jalen Hurts, who spent a majority of his time developing at Alabama, I feel like you're seeing Kyler Murray kind of struggle. Baker Mayfield has, under-impressed. I think Caleb Williams gives him a good chance of being like one of the top quarterbacks in the league.
Kind of right the ship ultimately.
Yeah, but he still hasn't practiced and developed his skills of being under center, going through multiple reads. So I think that, if you want short-term success, you could look at a place like USC. But if you're looking at long-term sustainable success, not only at this level, not only competing for championships, but also at the next level and being prepared for the pros, you're going to see a Stetson Bennett drafted. You've already seen a Jake Fromm drafted. You're going to see probably a Carson Beck get drafted after maybe only 1 year if he ends up winning the job. I mean, this quarterback system's finally kind of caught up under Kirby, which it took a while under Nick at Alabama. And so, you're going to start seeing guys that we have playing quarterback in the NFL. It's just how it works. It's that transitive property of you work hard and do it here. It correlates to the NFL. We were talking about it the other day about inside linebackers. If you can play inside linebacker at the University of Georgia, you can play inside linebacker in the NFL at any 32 teams. It's going to be the same thing at quarterback here eventually.
Well, see, I think the fact that you look at right what the offense asks for from the quarterback position, right? The ability to understand the multiple or run the multiple offensive scheme. You know, when you look at teams like I feel like Lincoln Riley, Tennessee, right? Tennessee's an offense where I feel like it's better suited towards a college, right? Because like Tennessee's, you talk about running in space, right? Utilizing the space. Well, when you get to the NFL, things change. The field changes, right? The hashes are close together. So how does that transfer over, right? I mean, think about what Hendon Hooker could be. We could see from Hendon Hooker, right? We don't know, but I mean, I'm curious to see if that kind of translates over. But like to your point, right? Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray, things of this nature, right? Like they've had success, but it is still like right now, like it's just kind of underwhelming, right? But at the same time, to be fair, you look at Georgia's quarterback, in the past decade, at least. Well, we'll be fair until since Kirby got here, right? Jake Fromm's still working around practice squads for the most part, but during his time at Georgia, right, like it was, he did all right. He did a good job, right? Led us as a freshman to the national title game, and then going from there. So you look at right now, you've got Stetson Bennett, which Juan might not want to hear this, but he's going to get drafted somewhere. So that the draft ability, right, is there now, I think. But I think the question mark for Georgia quarterbacks in the NFL, right, could be still somewhat of a question mark. But with Bobo now in the fold as your offensive coordinator, is it fair to go back and look at quarterbacks like Matt Stafford and say, this was a guy that came in under Bobo, got developed, right? I mean, he was a huge prospect, got drafted number 1 overall, and then statistically lit it up at Detroit. Can't help Detroit was a career killer for multiple people. Sorry, Barry. Sorry, Calvin. And then ironically, the year that he leaves, he goes to L.A., wins a fucking Super Bowl ring. Hooray.
And solidifies his case for the Hall of Fame.
I mean, yeah. So you look at that right there. Now, obviously, I think we have to understand that we're not going to see Mike Bobo-esque offenses from like his first time 100%. It's not going to be a pure mirror image what we're going to see now, right? Personnel is vastly different. However, I think that does come into the question because now that you have, Mike Bobo as your offensive coordinator, and this Bishop Don is in the chat, he can attest to this, right? He knows Bobo, right? So you look at the situation, I think you have to take that into context, right? I would say Matt Stafford's arguably the most successful quarterback out of the ones that Lincoln Riley's came into. Obviously out of, Kyler. And like you said, Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts had 1 year, but I mean, what the majority of his time was at Alabama. So you have a good point there if you want to look into, context within the argument. Let's see, Matt was the only one, and there won't be another one for years and years. Damn, one coming in hateful with the quarterback play. Jesus, we need to hit. Let's see, Black Adonis, are you eligible? Do you have a year of eligibility? We could always come through the portal, and I think we'll go to the promised land again. But no, I think if you land Dylan Raiola, though, I think Juan's argument about the quarterback situation could change drastically with him. It's just my thoughts. Seems like Pat's roasting Juan in the chat too. I ain't even mad about this. Juan's ordering his Stetson jersey in size extra medium. Damn, is Pat alluding to calling it mid? So this brings up a question too. I think you look at the system, and Juan brings up a question about the system. He says that he loves Beck, but Georgia's system hurts him. Now I'm trying to figure out, Juan, can you do a quick reasoning as to why it will? I mean, I do think Beck and Raiola are two different players, so I do think this system might actually benefit Raiola if he commits to Georgia. Kobe, would you agree on that, or where do you stand?
We're in a real. I think we're in between right now. Like, I haven't been over to see practice. We haven't seen it in the spring game. We haven't really like laid eyes on what this new offense is going to look like and going to lean on. Under Monken, we kind of had an idea of that. We like a guy that can make all the throws, pretty accurate on the short to medium throws, and can hit the deep ball when it's there. Like that was a big thing when you think about Todd Monken's offense. Is in quick transitions, we're going to take a shot. If you think about some of those memorable plays, touchdown to Ladd, to deep ball to AD and the Natty. Like it's that quick transition of like all of a sudden somebody fumbles, something happens, we have the ball. Okay, boom, we're gonna take a shot, and we were good at accurately throwing those balls and making the most of those opportunities. We'll see what that kind of looks like under Monken or under Bobo compared to Monken. Will he still in big transition periods take big shots, high risk, high reward opportunities?
So Don kind of, or Mr. Daniels, I should say, kind of alluded to his comment from earlier, saying that the NFL looks for more of the gunslinger types, right? Not the conservative game managers. Talking in regards to Beck not thriving in the NFL. Like I said, if that is the case, then I would say Dylan Raiola could definitely benefit in the NFL. But if we're talking about Georgia's system, Kirby wants his quarterbacks playing within the system, right? How much does, from a quarterback at that level, right? How much do we take into context that statement? Because I think it's a proven fact. When you heard Kirby after the Ohio State game, playing within the system, right? Talking to Stetson, does that hinder a quarterback when making a decision? Does that hinder Georgia's chances? Possibly.
Well, I think the big thing about it, and I think it's part of what Stetson struggled with, and it's what you do as you like learn and grow up. Is Kirby would tell you that there's always going to be another play, that there's no reason to risk an interception or a big momentum swing when you have your defense, you have a really good punter, you have a lot of really good weapons. Like if it doesn't look like it's there, it's not worth the risk of throwing an interception just to throw it on like a true, below 50-50 ball situation. And sometimes when you see these unbelievable plays, these amazing plays that Bryce Young makes, that Caleb Williams, even the guy at UNC, it's out of pocket throws where the offensive line is broken down, they're scrambling away, and finally they set their feet and throw a ball. It's kind of like what Stetson did in the Oregon game, where he kind of ran around, and finally stopped and threw the ball to, I think it was Ladd, maybe.
Yeah, the Oregon game.
Yeah. So I think that's what Juan's kind of talking about, is those guys that even when things aren't perfect, they can make things happen. I mean, that's what the NFL, like every play in the NFL is not going to be perfect.
Oh, no, I don't think you'll see it. I mean, excuse me. So Kirby said, Kirby. Juan said, absolutely. Think about this. Kirby's conservative system works, so don't fix it. That's 100% agree. Like the wing T works great in high school, but not great in college. Wing T, they still run that though? I guess if you're a smaller school, like smaller body, right? Like I know the triple option kind of does that. Like smaller schools will run triple option at least.
Talk to me, Juan, in the chat, or Adonis. Doesn't Marist still run wing T triple option or something like that? They're pretty good at it too in the state.
Does Deuce going to USC help them with getting Dylan? You know what though? That's an excellent question, because we kind of transition from systems to personnel while we wait for Juan to bring back some comments there. Going to do Camden County and Marist run the wing T. So, obviously what works in high school might not work at the next level, right? Which is same applies from college to NFL. So we have to be fair in that assessment. Hey, you're not wrong.
But I think there definitely is. I mean, depending on who you have, the athletes you have, like to me, the Chiefs run a very like old Oregon esque spread of
Yeah,
like
it's kind of
just
a
speed.
speed.
Maybe
Yeah,
not like quite the speed Oregon play with. I mean, they're going to spread you wide and they're going to throw the ball around the yard a little bit, and that's definitely not the old pro style, um,
yeah,
way to go. So I do think things integrate from year to year, from coach to coach. But I agree the conservative play call of let's just play really, really, really good defense, keep them from scoring less than 20, and hope we score 24 or 31. It just doesn't work in the NFL. You don't. Offenses are too good
yeah,
for a defense to consistently. Um, you have years like 1 year where like the last time I can think of a really good one, like the Broncos. They had that defense with Von Miller and all them. They just
yeah.
beat Cam and the Panthers to death.
Just shut them down, shut down the offense, and just broke their will. Kind of,
Yeah.
it literally felt the closest thing to what Georgia does on college football Saturdays.
But I mean, you haven't really seen a
It's
defense quite like that since. So I mean,
nope.
you can't put all your chips in that.
Oh no, no. I think so. I do want to bring this back, and then we'll transition to Adonis's question. Though I'm curious to see if Bobo stays consistent in regards to what he wants to call, or does he do what Monken does and take the quarterback that you have and kind of work the system around him for his strengths? You see what I mean? Like, because I feel like the NFL looks for quarterbacks that can just playmakers that can make the throws, all the NFL throws, which we have to go back to Carson Beck throwing for George Pickens to kind of get a feel for the belief that he can make these NFL throws. Because why would you ask a quarterback, not even a starting quarterback, to throw for you, knowing that he can't make all the throws that you need, right? Um, so I think with Carson Beck, that he's a capable pocket passer that can make the throws. I think we're comfortable saying that. But I think a lot of it too is right, like he seems to be understanding the system, right? I feel like that's not an issue, but it's right now. I think it's a matter of separating himself from Brock Vandegrift, right? Um, However, when you take the system, what are we going to see at G Day? My question is G Day even going to be something that we can really gauge? Because Kirby Smart, he ain't going to show you everything. The one thing that I will say that you might not be able to take play calls and schemes and personnel and bunch for all that stuff, but I will say you will be able to see the quarterbacks throwing, go through progressions, things like this. You see what I mean? I think that truly matters. But obviously, Kirby is. He wants to keep things under the vest.
And I'm gonna have to say that I'm gonna slightly disagree this year as far as G Day goes. Like, I mean, obviously he'll still keep things kind of tight, but I mean, it's the most open quarterback battle since probably Kirby's been here. Honestly,
Yeah, because I don't think it was an issue with Eason, right? I
I
don't
think
think it was.
I think the Eason Fromm year was really Eason's team, and then I think the Fields Fromm year it was really Fromm's team. I even think the Stetson. I mean, obviously, like the Stetson / Carson Beck / JT.
Dewan. What about the Dewan Mathis situation?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, I don't think you've ever had a true just I don't know versus I don't know, and I think they're going to throw them things. So
Yeah.
and,
No,
and
I think.
Adonis, I would have to agree that I think that he must be leaning pretty heavily towards baseball. To
I mean, if you look at his commitment material, right? The video. I think he posted a video, and a lot of it was him and baseball stuff. Like I think the kid really feels like he can get drafted and play in the MLB, and that's. I'm not mad about that because I can't say USC's baseball stat right now. The state of USC baseball is probably a lot better than what Georgia's is right now.
Well, my thing is you could always roll the dice, go at 18, play 5 years of minor league ball, and then come back and play college football.
If
Just
you
never
really
let
chose to.
your
Well,
just never
I think
let your
that's the
clock start.
downfall for the MLB side of things is that the league, right? The minor league system can be a pain in the ass to get through. But if you're a talent like that, I mean, he's being compared to Aaron Judge from what it sounds like. Like, obviously, I haven't really broke down the baseball side of things, but the dude can play if you're being looked at that way. Obviously, now that he's committed to USC, which I think it alludes to another question. Um, did him going to USC help them with getting Dylan Raiola? I wouldn't say yes or no. I don't think it matters, but it doesn't, because if you look at the personnel around the quarterback position, Georgia's receiving core, while we don't have a like AJ Green type receiver, it's about as deep as we've seen under Kirby Smart, in my opinion. Tight end room hardly ever been better. I think missing Darnell is going to hurt a little bit, but it sounds like Oscar Delp and Lost Lucky are more than trying to step up to replicate some of that lost production. And then obviously, I think if you really want to look at it, the offensive line, even though you lose, replacing the tackles, I still feel confident whether it be Austin Blasky or Ernest Green at that tackle spot outside of Mims. I feel comfortable saying that right now. I think the running back situation we need to solidify a little bit, but I don't necessarily think that that's going to impact his decision. Just that sole player, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go back to Juan says that's what Quincy Carter did. Just over the past couple of years. I mean, if he's talking about being a top, first round, maybe first 3-round draft pick, I mean, you're talking about he could sign for $3 million signing bonus. And just in the past, 2 months, Congress has already come down with regulations for minor league baseball, saying what you have to pay in yearly salaries had it doubled for every classification.
Yeah,
the guys in single A are going to be making $35,000 a year, and then kind of going up from there. So
baseball CBAs were trash.
Yeah, that minor league route is not. I mean, it's still tough. Don't get me wrong. It's a lot of bus rides, a lot of empty stadiums, but it's not as bad as it once was. And if you're the Dodgers and you got money in this kid, if he's showing promise in 3 years, you're doing everything you can to green light him to the MLB as quick as possible.
Yeah, I mean, I think the kid has serious MLB aspirations, and more power to him. Whether he committed to Georgia or USC, more power to him, right? Because you always want the success. I always wish success for these kids, man. Couldn't do that otherwise. Let's see. I think we talked about does dudes play single snap of college football? We answered that. JOGG in the building. Juan is about to comment a roof session under that comment, by the way. Ultimately, we've got TriStar in here saying that Raiola's going to Nebraska. Hey, he very well could. I mean, I just don't see it. I mean, I get it, but I don't see it happening. But how much does this season – what we talk about this season playing football, right, on the field, how much will that impact? Because he could – you mentioned that he could be done before the season even starts, correct? So will if that's the case, will it matter what USC does on the field? I still think it matters some, but I don't think it's not everything that it needs to be. Would that make sense? Okay.
Let me read you something off real quick. Hold on.
Okay.
Let me pull it up.
Yep, we're gonna be pulling up some
on the other screen.
He's staring me down.
This is why I believe this, and it's the same reason, kind of like last year, like Arch Manning. It's why it hurt so bad that you missed out on him. So Dylan Raiola is currently not committed, but the number 2 quarterback, the number 3 quarterback, the number 4 quarterback, the number 5 quarterback, the number 6 quarterback are all committed. 7 and 8 are not. Then 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, skip 15, 16, skip 17, 18, 19 are all committed. I mean, you're talking about they are right now are already know where they're going.
Keep in mind, Georgia has Puglisi.
Yes, they do, and he's on that list. Yeah. But you're just talking about that guys are finding homes early. They're then recruiting guys to come with them early. I mean, it's like, Alabama has Julian Sayin. He's number 2 quarterback. He was a guy that was kind of on our radar for a while. He's going to have guys following him to Alabama. But at some point, Dylan Raiola wants to have a home too, because he doesn't want to lose guys he wants to play with to Julian Sayin, because Sayin's already got somewhere to recruit to. It's a lot easier to say, hey, man, come to Alabama with me. Let's go play, than it is Raiola to go, hey, man, let's go wherever I go, but I'm not sure where I'm going to go yet. It's like, I can't wait around forever. Like,
because I need to claim my spot. Like, these spots are getting filled quick. I need to claim my spot. So Juan brings up a good point here, and I'm curious to hear what you have to say about this, Kobe. If we get Dylan and Kirby is willing to change, then it could spark a Tua-like explosion, meaning Tua changed Alabama. Then you look at Mac Jones, then Bryce Young, right? Start that kind of effect. I agree with that, because under one stipulation, if he comes in and things like, you build the system, kind of play the system around his strengths, right? And he has success. Then that, I think, would open up elite quarterbacks to really say, hey, I can come to Georgia and they can work with me. I can play, win games, win championships, get developed in the meantime, and also get myself in the same, because these NFL scouts are looking at kids coming out of high school, right? Unless it's just a drastic drop off, these kids are still planning on getting drafted. So that Georgia's going to put out draft pick after draft pick after draft pick, but we need to see that at the quarterback position consistently. I think Dylan comes to Georgia. Kirby makes a slight change with Bobo, I think, working with him. I think you could see what Juan is talking about, that little reaction there.
The hardest thing about that one, I hate to say the worst thing that could happen to that pipe dream would be if you win the national championship again this year. You three-peat in the current Kirby model, and I just don't know he changes it anytime soon. How do you argue with that at some point? Like, it took Saban losing to Deshaun Watson to show him that his model wasn't working the right way, and it completely changed how he thought about the quarterback position. And I think it might take something that drastic to change Kirby's mind. If he wins his way 3 years in a row, why? Who would change?
You might never see a change, to be honest. You might not ever see a change. And Juan agrees with that. That's a perfect pivot point, right, for this question, because we also take the context of a possible three-peat, right? If Georgia were to three-peat, obviously you're looking at different contexts, because, right, the playoffs expand to 12, so there's more games there, which I think could bode well for Georgia, considering the amount of rotation that the team defensively that they do. That could benefit Georgia moving forward, because they're not as tired come the game 15, 16, 17, right? Excuse me. We take into context that Georgia past few years has played 14, 15 games. That being said, you take a look at adding those couple extra games. For other teams that might not be as deep defensively, right? How are injuries going to impact these teams? How does it impact Georgia in comparison to these other teams? If Georgia gets the three-peat this year, you're not going to see a change. I'm just making that call. So that's just my thought. But Kobe, you mentioned G-Day, correct?
Yeah. G-Day is coming up, not this weekend, but next weekend.
So we mentioned this on the last episode. For the DGD podcast is obviously doing a G-Day giveaway. We have our pinned tweet, right, on Twitter. Predict the score, right? Make your prediction for the score for G-Day. The winner will be chosen, and you'll receive either 2 bags free of Apatheos coffee, your choice, or a $30 gift card to Alumni Hall. If you predict the score perfectly, we up that 3 bags of coffee or a $45 gift card. So make sure you go in and comment your score prediction today. Twitter.com forward slash. Yeah. Listen,
we'll throw in a Juan Daniels signed football.
Oh my God.
Perfect.
Make it happen. Make it happen. That's Kobe said that. So we'll have to strike that on the record. Just gonna leave that there. Let's see. Before we make that's not the main announcement though, folks. That is not the main announcement. The main announcement. G-Day tickets just came out today to the public. I speak to the public. With that being said, the DGD Podcast is giving away 4 free tickets. 4 free tickets to G-Day. Here's how you enter to win said tickets. You have 2 options. On Twitter, go follow the DGD Podcast, Apotheos, and Alumni Hall. Follow those 3 accounts. Make sure you have to be following to be entered. And quote, there will be a tweet coming out here shortly. I need you to quote tweet it with your favorite Georgia moment/memory. Do that to get entered. You do that right there, and you're following all 3. You're getting an entry into the giveaway for the free tickets. On Instagram, follow the same 3, right? You'll see a post coming up shortly. DGD Podcast, Apotheos, and Alumni Hall. Make sure you're following them. And tag 3 people in the comments. You do that, you get an entry into the free tickets. Now, here's the catch. If you do both, this is the only way that you will get 2 entries into the giveaway. The giveaway, we will announce the winner of the tickets on our G-Day special next Wednesday. So stay tuned to that. That is the major announcement. Yeah, it's not 19 steps, Adonis. I need you to chill out. Maybe I'm sorry you're incompetent enough to follow too. Sorry. Yeah, so Juan also says he will be at G-Day, so whoever wins, let's get a pic together. Look at that. Juan, you'll even get a picture with Juan. Adonis doesn't want to. Hey, maybe someone else does. All right, so pipe down. But yeah, so 4 free tickets, Section 101, if you're curious. Going to let you know that. It's not the 600 level. It is 101. Section 101. Kobe, I think that's a great way to end the show. All right.
And
any final?
What people don't realize is these very tickets come with a chance to see Juan the Goat Daniels play in the alumni flag football game before G-Day kicks off. That's what you're really winning here. 101 section tickets to watch the GOAT on the field.
That right there is worth the price of admission. I'm just going to leave you know right there. That's the price of admission right there. I will not be able to. Got some stuff going on that day. I will be able to watch the game, but I will not be able to make the trip. So, no, to answer your question, Adonis. Bring Juan a Stetson jersey. If you win and you do that and you take a picture of it, I'm gonna send you something from our sponsors regardless. So if there's proof that the winner of this giveaway sends or brings a Stetson jersey and you can get Juan to take a picture with it, you'll get something and we'll talk about it. But you'll get something from the sponsors, I promise you. So make that happen. That's all I'm gonna say. Make it happen. And specifically Stetson for that matter. Specifically Stetson. Kobe, any final thoughts on today, man?
Just getting ready for G-Day one day at a time.
Yeah, it's crazy to look at it. 10 days from now, man, you'll be watching your Georgia Bulldogs, our Georgia Bulldogs for that matter, taking the field for the spring practice, televised ESPN2 at 4:00. By the way, keep that in mind. With that being said, Juan, ahead of time, I'm gonna let you know. Please take some Tylenol or some Motrin or something ahead of time because you might be hurting just doing all that running. No wheelchairs allowed. from what I heard on the field. Kirby wants that field sacred and looking good for G-Day, so no wheelchair marks, ultimately. With that being said, though, guys, like I said, be on the lookout, Twitter and Instagram. Make sure you do that, folks. That's 4 free tickets to go to G-Day. Tickets are going out pretty quick, so keep that in mind as well. With that being said, body brace. Okay, even better.
From putting DBs in body bags to wearing a body brace. Juan Daniels, ladies and gentlemen.
Juan Daniels about to look like Squidward when he's all up on the hospital bed, all braced up.
Nobody cares about U-Day, Joel. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think anybody's going to be even close to that side.
G-Day just has such a good roll off the tongue, but U-Day? All right, what are we talking about there?
It's not U-Haul, so like U-Haul like makes sense. U-Day does not. With that being said, though, folks, we're going to wrap this thing up. Remember, stay on the lookout. We'll probably drop the announcement post here in a couple minutes, but make sure to like, follow, subscribe. That's how you'll know. And then, like I said, the winner of the giveaway will be announced next Wednesday here live on the show. So stay around. With that being said, have a great day. We will catch y'all Monday, and go Dogs.